Well, he's a good God. He's a kind God. He's a friend of mine. And the old hymn says, friendship with Jesus, fellowship divine. Oh, what blessed sweet communion. Jesus is a friend of mine. And I praise the Lord for the opportunity to stand before such a great people on this wonderful Sunday morning to celebrate one of the greatest men that I know, your pastor, your minister, Pastor Derek B. Wells. Everybody, let's celebrate with a great hand clap. And while your hands are clapping, you can't love him without loving the lady that makes the neck turn. The beautiful First Lady. To all of the leadership of the historic Christ Universal Temple, to this board, to a young lady that I have learned to love and I've adopted her. I think she's adopted me. She's real bossy, but she's real sweet. And I was taking my time getting out the car this morning in the lot, and she said, hurry up, I'm waiting on you. Reverend Helen Carey, everybody. I love you. I am ecstatic about being here today. It took me some turning some things and changing some things, but because I believe that love is what love does, that it was not hard for me to position the two churches that the Lord has blessed me to serve as leader. I made it Youth Day at both of them so I can fly away and come and play with my friend today. And to see the love that you all have for him blesses me, and to see the class and the integrity and the character of what Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman founded and established as such a great church still remains. She was a lady before her time, and you were a people before your time, and to see the Lord bless this church to continue on with that same class under a classy man blesses me. It does. One more time, celebrate Reverend Derek Wells, Lady Wells, and celebrate yourself, the Christ Universal Temple. You all are a class act. My sound man told me he was going to place a microphone over here for me if I wanted to sing. And after watching the young man who started out Destiny Worship Center with me direct your choir, Marty Woods is one of the greatest directors of music so high tech up here. It's a microphone here, is one right here on my neck. And so you don't have a problem with music with the temple ensemble, and you don't have a problem with music with Marty, and you definitely don't have a problem with music with Montague, Philon. You don't have, and this band. But there's a little song that says, I've had many tears and sorrows. I've had questions for tomorrow. There have been times I didn't know right from wrong. But in every situation, God gave me blessed consolation that these trials only come to make me strong. I like you. I've been lots of places. I've seen millions of faces. There's still been times I felt so all alone. But in those lonely hours, sometimes they were precious lonely hours. But Jesus stepped in to let me know I was his own. And I thank him for the mountains. I thank God for the valleys. I thank him for the storms he's brought me through. But if I never had one problem, I would not know that God could solve them. I would not know what faith in his word could do. Through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus. Have I got a witness today? We've learned to trust in God. Everybody say through it all. And through it all, I've learned to depend upon his word. Everybody say through it all. Everybody say through it all. I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. Everybody say through it all. Through it all, I've learned to depend upon God's word. Clap your hands, everybody, through it all. Everybody say through. Oh, I've learned to trust in Jesus. I had to learn to trust in. I had to cry sometimes, but through it all, everybody say through. I've learned to depend upon God's word. I've learned to depend upon his word. One last time, I've learned to depend upon his word. In the book of 2 Timothy, there's a message that had been burning in my heart the last couple of months. And we won't be long. I'm not going to make this my West Side church on the South Side because we'd be running up and down aisles till about 12:30, quarter to 1. I want to come back and give another Easter speech before. In the book of Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse number 10 and verse number 11. And I think I'm going to use this handheld, okay? It reads in the King James Version, "But thou hast fully known my doctrine, manner of life, my purpose, faith, long-suffering, patience, and charity." Verse 11 says, and Paul is speaking to Timothy, he says, "But you've also known my persecutions, my afflictions, which came unto me at Antioch, at Lystra, and at Iconium. What persecutions I endured, but out of them all the Lord delivered me." I'd like to speak for these next couple of moments, and I want to talk about these young people shortly. Graced to get the job done. Everybody repeat after me. I'm graced to get the job done. And if I was on the west side at my church or in Maywood, I would tell you to turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, get it done. Yeah, get it done. You all were magnificent. I've never heard anything so beautiful without the instrumentation, and you all were instruments and making instrumentation noises with your lips and your mouth and everything, and you all sounded great. And to the young men that beat all of the old school people, I don't mess with the young school, the new school. Their game is a little different than the old school. But congratulations to you all for whooping some people who got some experience in this thing and should have whooped and trained y'all while y'all was on that court. Let's celebrate all of our young people today. Almost 20 years ago, I was asked by a young lady by the name of Sandra Robinson, who then worked for Inspiration 1390. It was Gospel Radio 1390, where the ministry is in the music. I was asked to consider taking on a radio job. No prior experience in radio, no practice runs, no preparation, had no instructors nor instructions. I had been practically enlisted in one of gospel greatest radio stations in the entire country. And after a few weeks of pondering on it and having some people touch and agree with me in prayer, I called Sandra Robinson back and asked her what all would I have to do to handle the assignment. She said, "Listen to my show every day, and what I do, I want you to do." Well, it sounded easy, it looked easy, and so I thought that the job would be very simple. When I got there, there was a young man by the name of Mike Robinson who was my trainer, and he gave me about 3 days to start working on the board and learning how to speak with a smile. And I was afraid to death. I was scared, didn't know what I was going to do and even how to do it, and I didn't want to say because you don't want to say on the radio. You want to speak with a smile so you can connect with the people that are listening to you in the cars, so that you would not turn the radio off. And so I had to learn how to work the board, work the volume, cut the mic on, smile, read, play music, all at the same time. I had no idea that my new opportunity would bring me before new people, new territories, new everything. Also learned some of the biggest names in radio and the biggest names in television. But after getting there, I realized that it was more to radio than opening up the microphone, talking, and playing music. I was petrified. She said to me, "I've got to assign someone to you that can train you not to be afraid." And I just didn't understand at the time, when I was getting ready to speak in front of millions of people and I was only one person in the studio, that God had not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. So 16 years later, 17 years later, I'm still in radio. I'm back at 1390. They had fired me and Effie. They didn't give me my shift back, First Lady, but they did say every time we call you, we want you to come. You still have an assignment at 1390. It was beautiful to be asked to get back to 1390. I was begging to get my job back, but little did I know that Moody Bible Institute had been listening to me and gave me a job in internet radio, working 12 hours a weekend, speaking to about 160 nations, versus 1390 that was just talking to Chicago and the suburban areas. And so you never really know what God has in store for you in the beginning of the assignment. And every assignment will come with some oppositions. I found out that every assignment will come with some adversities, and every assignment will come with some afflictions. If I can just preach to you just for a few moments, and I might holler at you a few times, don't get afraid. Let your wig, your weave, your teeth shift, and let's go on for the ride, all right? In every assignment, you will have some training that you will need. And you'll never come into any assignment already knowing the ropes. When I looked at my brother and I began to pray for him as he was getting ready to take over a wonderful ministry, I said, that's a big machine that you're going to have to encounter some training in my head. Not only are you going to have to encounter some training, but you're also going to have to go through some oppositions, some afflictions, and some adversities. There's a proverb that says that if you faint during the day of adversity, your strength is small. And so many of us have been given certain assignments by the Father. But when we come to the conclusion of the matter, we realize that the assignment is not going to be easy. And when that assignment is not easy, very easily we enter into a fear zone. God has not given us a spirit of fear, as we spoke it earlier, but he's given us power, love, and a sound mind. And Paul teaches Timothy, as he was on his way to Nero's chopping block and getting ready to die, Paul knew that he would have to be assigned to some things that would not be simple. Life is never going to be simple. It will always have some difficulties in it. Some difficulties, and we don't ponder on them because we meditate on the goodness of the Lord. But the reality of life will bring some haters. The reality of life will bring some disappointments. If I can just park at your row and you all had to deal with it, and we probably still deal with it, jealousies will come in these assignments. People that think that they can do the job better than you can, they will rise up against you. Right in the same audience of the people who you are having to lead. I didn't understand that I would have to deal with haters at 1390 because there were some people that wanted my shift and some people who had been there a little longer than I had been there that could do the job better than I can do the job. But the favor of God was not on them for the shift that he had already called me to. I wish somebody would holler, get it done. Get it done. Paul says to the Philippian church, a church that he speaks very affectionately to. The Ephesian church had some issues. The Corinthian church had some problems. The church at Thessalonica had some issues, but the Philippian church was not a church that he had issue with. The Philippian church was a church that he wanted to applaud and salute and kiss all of them because they were the only church that tried to give him seed because of the good that he was doing. And Paul said to the Philippians, I don't speak in respect of what I want. I've learned how to be content and happy in whatsoever state I am. And Paul said, I know I had some haters around me. I know I had some jealous folk around me. And not only that, I know I had my own proclivities and my own weaknesses. I persecuted the church, and I thought that I was doing the right thing when I was doing it. And I didn't know that I was doing it wrong. But until Ananias came to tell me that Jesus had an assignment for me, And when the scales fell off of my eyes, my name wasn't changed from Saul. I had dual citizenship. I just began to operate in another attitude and in another disposition and in another, y'all ain't saying nothing, and in another character. And I could not come to myself until I got a revelation of who I really am. Everybody needs a revelation. And some people will never come into the fullness of who you are until you get a revelation. Everybody needs a slap in the face. Everybody needs that light bulb moment. And it was Paul that said to the Philippians, I don't speak in respect of want. I've learned how to be content in whatsoever state I am. I know how to be hungry, and I know how to be full. I know how to be abound. I know how to be abased. I know how to be the leader. I know how to be the follower. I don't have to be the head man in charge. I know how to follow leadership. And guess what? I can't do that within myself. Because in myself, I have my own views. I have my own opinions. And Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with what? All of your heart. And lean not to your own advice. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all, there it goes, all, somebody holler all of our ways acknowledge him, and he what? Will direct our path. Can I tell you what direction means? He'll navigate you through the trouble. Can I tell you that if we get out of our own view and out of our own opinion and what we can do better and how Pastor Coleman did it and how this doesn't need to change, when we get out of our own view and realize it's a new season, he will navigate you through your complaints. He'll navigate you through your upsetness. I just made up a word. I do that on the west side every once in a while. That's the west side thing. Somebody holler west side. Any west siders here? Any west? Come on, I need some help, y'all. Help me out. Don't leave me out there by my... We're outnumbered. We on the south side. Don't... And so Paul said, I can't do that within myself. But here that goes, that all again. I can do that strengtheneth me. So I had to ask the Lord in every assignment, where do I get my strength from? And there's another word, Gavin, that says empowered, impacted, infused. We can never get impacted without proper meditation. Psalm number 1, verse number 2. I can give you verse number 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. How are we empowered? When your delight is in the law of the Lord and you're not being empowered by voices of negativity. Because sometimes we cannot see the real us and the real him in the assignment because we have counsel with people who aren't connected to God. You can't get with crackheads and ask a crackhead about a God assignment. Because his understanding is in the crack. And crack is whack. If you're going to find out about a God assignment, you need to find somebody godly to speak to. And godly people are not perfect people. We are just people who are striving every day to seek the face of the Lord to get direction so that we can get navigated through the opposition. Somebody holler opposition. And Paul said that I could do all things through Christ. So can I tell you that whatever the enemy says you cannot do, God says that you can do. But you must be empowered. Somebody holler empowered. Impacted. Infused. You must be infused. I heard a story of a preacher just a couple of days ago, and give me a couple minutes and I'm done. He said that he went to the hospital to go visit one of his members, and she constantly needed looking after by the doctors. And every time he would go to the doctor, she would need a shot. She was always complaining about being in pain. She needed a shot. But every time he went to the doctor to see his member, he saw a young man who was connected to a pole and some IVs. And every time he would go to the hospital, he would see the young man, and he would be walking down the aisle, did not have a whole lot of energy, and he was still going to see his own member. And the member kept on screaming, "I needed a shot." But the man who looked weaker was the one that was connected to the IV and barely making it down the aisle. He said he kept on going back and forth to the hospital, and the member kept on saying, "I need a shot, I need a shot." The doctor would put the pastor out, and he began to see the young man who was connected to the IVs. One day he was walking real slow, but about a couple of weeks after, the man started picking up his pace. He went back to the hospital a couple of weeks later, and the member kept on saying, "I need a shot." He looked in the same hallway, and the man that was walking real slow picked up his pace a little bit, but because he was constantly being infused with the right medication, his pep got a little bit faster, and he started walking a little bit better. And before he knew it, he was walking out of the hospital, and the member whose mind, who just did not know who she really was, kept asking for a shot instead of being infused with power. Can I share something with my church family today? You have the power to get the job done. You just got to make sure you connected to what can really infuse you. We don't have enough infused people. We've got enough confused people. We don't have infused, we have confused. And so let me show you what Paul said to Timothy. Paul said, "Timothy, in the last days, perilous times are going to come. There's going to come some assignments that you're not going to understand. This new school is going to confuse you old school people. The millennials are going to take us on a trip, and we're going to try to figure out, do we really and are we really relevant anymore? Can I tell you that the new school is really doing some good stuff, but the old school just don't understand their language?" But Paul said to Timothy, "I don't care what the culture says, don't lose your sound." And in the last days, perilous times are going to come when men would become lovers of their own selves and would rather hear things that would make them feel good rather than to hear things that would make their minds change. And so I don't care what the culture changes and what the culture brings. Christ Universal, don't lose your class. And church, don't lose your power, because at the end of the day, you can do all things through Christ that strengthens you. But let me give you two more points and I'm out your way. Paul said that I didn't come here to make you feel good. Timothy, you had a front row seat of my persecutions. You had a front row seat of my long sufferings, my faithfulness. You also had a front row seat of my opposition and my afflictions. But out of all of my afflictions, my adversities, and my opposition, guess what? The Lord delivered me. There's no way possible for God to deliver you if you're not infused with the deliverer. Let me show you something. 72 verses in the Bible that references persecution. 50 verses references afflictions. But if you add 72 and 50, it's 122 verses that gives us adversities. But there's 296 times the word deliver is mentioned. 290 times the word delivered is mentioned. 16 times the word deliverance is mentioned. 13 times the word delivereth is mentioned. 10 times the word deliverer is mentioned. Rewind. Add all of the adversities together, you get 122 verses. 72 verses of persecution. 50 verses of afflictions. But I don't count real quick. 296, 290, 16, 13, and 10 gives you a word that has deliver in it, which goes to share with me in David's analogy. God is a refuge for me, a very present help in the time of trouble.
Can I share Christ Universal and I'm out your way? I don't care what opposition you're in, what afflictions you're going through, what adversities you may be under. You serve a God who's a strong deliverer. And if God brought you to the assignment, he's going to give you the wherewithal to complete the assignment. Grab somebody by the hand next to you and tell them, neighbor, I've been graced to get the job done. Clap your hands, everybody, if you can do all things through Christ that strengtheneth you. You might have opposition, you might have afflictions, and you might have adversities, but many are the afflictions of the righteous. But the Lord will deliver us out of them all. Get the job done. Happy birthday, Pastor. Get the job done. We've got a new season. Get the job done. Young people, it's your turn. Get the job done.